We are going down. Sell all your crypto now. Exit the market as fast as you can. Right now. Welcome back. My name is Stan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of an international custom software development company. We build products for the city of New York, SAP, and General Electric. I've done more than $15 million in custom software sales, and on this channel, I'm sharing my journey on turning $500,000 into $10 million in crypto. So we just had a crazy dump to 41,000, and it's just about BTC because altcoins, they feel very bad, especially low caps, especially things like BRC20s that I have a lot of and things like that. So I would actually be showing my portfolio on this video, full portfolio with the full overview in terms of the pricing, in terms of the positions and things like that, and sharing my thoughts in terms of what actually will happen, how you actually would want to play out this situation, play out this market, and how I am playing it from my end. Feel free to copy, feel free to not, it's up to you. It's just one of the opinions that you can take in order to add to your analysis and make a decision based on different information sources and different people that you basically follow from your end. So we had this surge in terms of the BT ETF, and then we kind of had this sell the news event. We were in the sidelines for quite some time, and right now, just today, we basically dropped to 41,000, which is quite interesting, quite crazy by itself. If you're in the technical analysis, you can say that we see here shoulder and head pattern, which is quite bearish by itself because it means that we should go way down in terms of the things that are happening. Although I'm not selling any of my positions, especially my altcoin positions at this stage. I'm thinking on essentially buying more into some of them, but I will probably would want to wait for certain confirmation in terms of this scenario, because if we go up, I would probably would want to take a bit of the profits. If we go down, I would essentially have better entries in terms of the things. But these are the situations where a lot of people where most people, they basically think on whether or not I should be entering now, whether or not I should be exiting now. Where there are a lot of uncertainty, this is basically the best type of scenario to either buy or sell, depending on your strategy, but often sell if you basically believe in the upcoming 2 years of the bull market and things like that. So I do actually think that we will not be dumping heavily from these levels. It seems a bit too harsh. I do think that we should still see a correction pump, because all this movement basically from there to there, 17%, it's not that big of a dip on the bull market, if you would ask me. But I think we should see a correction to this correction, which obviously is essentially a pump. And I do think that BTC actually looks like it's going to pump to 46K. And I'm also voting with my wallet as usually on this channel. I do stay in my loan on SUI. I have 1.01 liquidation price, actually is 0.99, so it's even better. And there might be some interesting things happening in terms of the SUI, there might be not. I'm essentially keeping my loan at this stage, and I do think that we might be able to see something interesting on this thing as well, because if we would essentially put out daily, I would just want to provide you with a bit of interesting information here as well. Let's choose weekly time frame. So we kind of see here formation of cup and handle, right? So this is the cup, this is handle, which is a bullish pattern by itself for the token, and following the things that the market maker is basically doing himself. His goal, his idea is to basically get as much people as he can out of this token, out of their positions. His main goal is to change hands. So people that were buying at 0.4, they would sell. The goal of the market maker is to basically make these people sell at this level, to make sure that he would be able to push the price higher easier, because these people will sell at this level. They will take their like 3.5x profits, right? New people will enter maybe $1, 1.1 and things like that, because they would think for themselves that there is enough upside already. And then he would basically move forward with these new people, because it's going to be easier to push the price with them, because they would not want to sell, because they didn't even have a 2x on the token yet. So it's kind of the core thing that I think will happen with this loan. I'm not going to average out my position at this stage. I'm not going to add margin currently, although I'm planning to add at least $5,000 of margin at probably if it would go closer to $1. And kind of bullish things on my loan on SUI is because in some channels, in some private discords that I'm in, I saw yesterday that a guy was liquidated on his loan on SUI, and he actually re-entered with the loan, and he mentioned that I just got a better entry. And he also mentioned that most of the loans on SUI, they were liquidated already, so they were essentially around the level 112, 118, so somewhere around that level there were a lot of stops and a lot of liquidations in terms of the loan. So not sure what will essentially happen with this, but I think very interesting in terms of how the situation will be playing out and whether or not I would be able to take my profits and at the goal of $2 per SUI, maybe even a bit sooner in terms of the things that are happening. There is also a post from Becker that I actually wanted to share, which is quite interesting and quite nice by itself. So I do see a lot of interviews with previous poker players who are actively in crypto and that are in crypto for quite some time. And Alex saying is that stop playing the charts and waiting for the perfect entry. Is crypto going on a big bull run or not in the next 1 to 2 years? If yes, these prices are irrelevant. If wrong, the risk was worth taking. Simple. So it's a very calculated approach and bet, I would say, because the upside is huge in terms of the funds that I have in my portfolio currently, in terms of the positions and things like that. Downside, I would lose several $100,000. Well, things like this might happen, and I'm basically ready to lose them in comparison with the upside I can get, because if we would essentially go on this crazy bull run, the several $100,000 that would essentially turn to several million. And it's pretty hard to turn several $100,000 to several million in this short time frame, in this market as well. And basically all you had to do is just buy low. So I didn't buy low in terms of all of my portfolio at this stage. I think I was buying in the bear for at least over half of my current portfolio. I've injected around $100,000 to $150,000 in crypto markets in the last 2 to 3 months since our surge in November. And you can kind of say that I was actually buying the top on some of the tokens, which I will show a bit later. But I do still have at least half of the same amount of my current portfolio to be ready and get injected into the market as well. And this is something that I would essentially be doing on the dips. I do think that we might be seeing something around 35,000 over a certain time frame, but I don't think that we would basically crash there like right now. I think we should still see a pump, a correction on the recent correction, because there are still a lot of people that are out of the market. They still might be looking for entries. And I think they have PTSD from the fact that they missed entries because they thought that they would be able to buy lower. And a lot of the tokens, if you would essentially check the price with the bear market, even with SUI, 0.4, I doubt we would actually see 0.4 like any time, I don't think that we would ever see 0.4 on the tokens like SUI. And the guys that miss these entries in the bear, they understand this. So they would want to get something maybe like 0.8, 0.9 if you would get there. And the idea of the market is kind of fool you, play with you, and make sure that you are not getting the position that you wanted to get. So it's very important not to be greedy in terms of your entries and in terms of your exits as well. So I think pretty nice alpha from Alex in terms of the bets, in terms of how people are playing it. And in the worst case scenario, my portfolio, which is around 200, 250k in crypto currently, I think if we would essentially go to 30k in terms of the BTC, it can go as low as 100k, maybe 80k, 70k. But I've been through these dips. I still have cash on the side, so I would be able to inject, and I would essentially be able to play this out well again if we are following the narrative that we would see the bull market, and I think that we essentially follow it. So in terms of my portfolio, I was not able to log into my CoinGecko account for this video. I think I will try to do it in the next one. The whole sum of the portfolio is basically $400,000, and yeah, I think it actually didn't sort in the way from largest position to the lowest position, because I definitely don't have Phantasma as my top 3. I think it's sorted through some type of essentially sorting mechanism provided by CoinGecko. LUKSO is my biggest holding in terms of the safest bet from my point of view. We had almost a nice 2x yet, and I do think that I would actually be buying more on the deep. Virtual Poker just entered 4k, got 8-9x's, so I'm just holding this into the bull narrative is crazy. Phantasma, that's actually something I'm thinking on exiting on the pump. and essentially redistributing into some new token, because it's older token, and older tokens, they tend not to do well if they're not being supported by influencers of this cycle, if they did not get any additional investments, so if they don't have people who are interested in making money on these tokens, they will often even down perform essentially Ethereum, BTC, and the market. And this is something that Phantasma is doing at this stage. So 7 days minus 30%, and I'm still actually in profit on this position. POLKER, pretty straightforward. It's also from the last market, from the last cycle, but essentially you would be able to influencers, they still kind of push this thing, and I think it will do very, very well, and I kind of got nice entries on this thing. But obviously if you would go to 30k, it can go below my entry prices. Arkadiko, 100x lending on stacks. NQI, NQI was actually mentioned on Crypto Banter show yesterday. It's just crazy. MOZAIC, very, very nice play. So one of the things that I wanted also to show is these two posts about top 50 potential gems, and I will be showing them a bit later. And it's kind of exciting to see some of my coins as low cap picks, and I would also show you my want to buy portfolio. It's a very, very small amount of tokens, but these are the things that I would essentially be planning to enter with large positions. So in terms of my $200,000 in cash and stable coins, this is something that I would actually be planning to redistribute in these tokens, and essentially I also would be planning to buy some of the tokens that I have currently. So OSPY is something I'm heavily down on. I bought it as a utility BRC20 token. I bought it at the top, so I make mistakes as well. BOBO is actually minus 7,000, I think, in terms of my whole position at this stage, but I think it's a very, very great pick to actually buy into at the dip as well. I think it will perform like crazy because pepe will essentially surge. Spartadex is just stable, gamify, arbitrum play. LUKSO I mentioned already, that's a bet on Fabian, who is the developer for ERC20, and I like the focus on creative economy and user experience. Rainy Studios is the beta Beam play, so if Beam would search, this thing would search as well. CHAX is like a meme coin I just bought. It's connected to Stacks ecosystem. I'm down 50% on this at this stage, and I was never kind of up. So you can also say that I also bought the top on this thing. GHOSY, I'm also down actually currently. It's BRC20 swap product, so you're actually able to swap BRC20s. But I think this has some fundamentals, so I think it might be a very, very nice time to DCA into, and also leave some cash to DCA in if we would essentially see Bitcoin on the lower levels. From my point of view, I don't want to DCA in currently. I would plan to DCA in because I think it might actually go lower. I think it's down like maybe 50 or so 70% in terms of the amount that I was buying, but I just put 4k into it, so not a big deal essentially. Travis Labs is the same thing, so it's actually a functional BRC20 product, but it's also down heavily. Linda is a meme coin on Linea, which is layer 2 for the Ethereum, so it's kind of display that it's the first mover, first meme coin, so I think it might do well. .com is a pretty well-known launchpad on BRC20, so I think it will actually do well also, although I'm down 3k in this position currently. And WELSH is kind of like this first meme coin on BTC. It's actually meme coin in Stacks ecosystem, so it kind of holds the price quite nicely actually. It's around my entry point currently, so my entry is 002, it's 002, yeah, so it's 0019 currently. So I think this thing actually, it's quite interesting that it's holding very, very nice. So even if it would essentially surge down, I would still be looking to DCA into this position as well. The things that I want to buy, I would want to add into portfolio as well. So obviously some of the tokens that I have, like MOZAIC, I would probably want to have more of it. NQI as well, Arkadiko as well, LUKSO obviously. Spartadex and Rainy Studios, we will see. Might essentially enter as gaming and gamify plays. In terms of these things, I would probably just DCA in because it didn't make sense to buy these tokens if I don't want to DCA in. So I would probably force myself to DCA in. So in terms of the tokens that I actually would want to buy, Alex Labs is the DeFi DEX on Stacks. And once the essentially Stacks will have Nakamoto upgrade and they will decrease the amount of the time for the transactions to 5 seconds, I think that this would be a very, very nice play in terms of acquiring and getting. I do actually think that I would put $50,000 and I would want to acquire the position worth of $50,000 on the correction. Echelon Prime is just nice. Gaming product is gaming and AI, so it's actually implementation of AI into gaming. It's crazy. Data Lake is decentralized science narrative great DeFi implementations for the product as well. So this is just something to have exposure to decentralized science. And I see it's kind of popping up between alpha communities that I'm in. And on these Twitter pages posts, you would also see Lake. And it's a low market cap at this stage. And I do plan to enter it. I'm just looking for better entries. TRAC, obviously, essentially channeling for BRC20s. It's just very, very nice from the point of view as it basically works as a hedge for all BRC20s, because there are different meta protocols and we don't know which meta protocol would essentially win in the bull, right? And I think the same thing is going to happen with the layer 1s and layer 2s. We have like a bunch of them, like 30, 50, we have around 10 meta protocols, but I think what will happen in the end is essentially 1 to 2 to 3 winners. They will suck up all the liquidity. So they will have 80 to 90% of the liquidity, and it's very, very hard to be able to pick the winner at this stage. So that's why I'm kind of buying TRAC as a hedge, because each and every of these meta protocols, they would essentially need an indexer. That's how things on these ordinals work. So it's a safe bet from this point of view. BOBO is my beta pepe play. I do think that we might actually be seeing better prices on this thing. So it would be just wise from my point of view to enter a certain amount to just get way larger position than I have currently, because I was kind of buying at the local tops as well. And Krest is just a very, very interesting decentralized infrastructure play, which has also actually been mentioned in private communities and on these lists as well. It's actually one of the tokens that surged just from yesterday. I think it down 20%, which is quite crazy by itself. They have quite high fully diluted valuation, but I think this still this is something that I would want to essentially get into. So let's quickly move through the list of top 50 potential unicorns, and it's basically the same type of list here. And it's quite interesting that some tokens that actually are mentioned in this list and in this list as well. So I think that the tokens that are mentioned in these two lists at the same time, they're basically the strongest one because they have the support from different people on the community. So from layer 1s, we basically see that SEI is mentioned in both of them, and Injective, and essentially Celestia as well. Very, very bullish on these things. This guy essentially chose to mention SUI, but this guy, he doesn't have SUI. Layer 2, Metis, Optimus, Arbitrum, base Metis, Optimus. So Metis, it's kind of interesting in terms of the position of the things that they mention, because if something goes higher in terms of the order of mentioning, I think that there is essentially a higher conviction, because this is the thing that they thought of the first. So it's quite interesting to see Metis here and there. So it's done, I think, a 10x already from the lows of the bear, but I think we do still have a lot of exposure in terms of just waiting once this thing will go down and then entering the position. Real world assets, so I'm not very, very big on this narrative, so I won't probably be covering these tokens as well. Risk taking is something that I like, risk take and aging. And I think in terms of the risk taking, yeah, so exactly 2 tokens. So very, very safe picks in terms of this narrative. I think this narrative would essentially surge like crazy just because of the fact that it's connected with the DeFi, it's unlocking liquidity and things like that. So I think these 2 tokens, they would be very, very nice entries on the bear once we would essentially see the correction. And you would also want to check what is the vesting schedule there, like how things are looking from the vesting schedule and from the dilution of these tokens as well. Gamify, I do like to see Prime actually in both of them. So that's something I'm bullish on, right? So that's something I want to buy in the portfolio. XI, I have some notes of XI. I didn't actually set up them yet, but I will do this weekend. IMX, pretty straightforward pick. It's interesting that the guy mentioned Crown, because this is the project that Alex Becker would probably be pushing essentially heavily through the whole bull. It's gambling play on Solana. And it's around, I think, 80 to 90 million market cap at this stage. Quite interesting by itself. Cypher, don't know much about it. So this guy, he has, in terms of BRC20s, he has Mubi, Map, and these 2 their stacks ecosystem. And this guy, he has BRC20s. He basically has Ordi, Mubi, BCCB, and Bridge. So it's quite interesting that we don't have TRAC here. We don't have things like GHOSY here. But I guess these guys, they are more, they're not very, very, very deep in terms of BRC20 space and things like that. Mubi and Map, they're just great projects in terms of the exposure and things like that. It's quite interesting to also not see BRC20.com in their picks, but Ordi just very, very safe. Mubi is something very, very safe, and basically Map is something that also would be used by a bunch of people essentially in the whole narrative as well. So speaking of AI, yeah, we see NQAI here, which is quite interesting and quite crazy from my point of view, because it's just 50 million token at this stage. It's just that narrative that follows this thing is quite crazy. If they would be able to put decentralized LLML, so it's basically decentralized uncensored ChatGPT on the blockchain, it will be like several $billion project easily in the bull. In terms of other AI tokens, I don't know much about it. They have larger market caps, although you might be actually, if you want this safer place, you might be able to get into them on the correction as well. Krest is something that I like in terms of the DPIN because it's basically a low market cap. It's in my want to buy portfolio as well. And I think in terms of DPIN, yeah, this guy has Krest as well. They both have kudos too, I think. Yeah, so it's something bullish if you see these two peaks in both of them. And you don't have to buy all of these tokens. You just have to, what I'm doing, I would essentially have from 1 to 2 tokens in each narrative and basically just increase my positions on these tokens because I don't have to have a list of like 40 different projects and things like that. If the narrative would essentially run, the token would run anyway. And then you basically just make bets on your winners, on your losers essentially. Alex and Stacks bullish on this because I want to get Alex. I have first Memecoin on Stacks, which is WELSH, which is basically at 0 in terms of the PNL for me at this stage. LSDFi, don't know much about this narrative as well. Derivatives, DYDX, quite interesting. Some people, they mentioned GMX as well, which is kind of like this new thing of DYDX, but yeah, we don't see GMX here. And yield, MOZAIC, right? So he has it first as the first order essentially, and that's not actually half in my portfolio. I kind of bought at the top, but this thing I would definitely be looking into essentially DCing because I am in some private communities and heads of these communities, they're essentially advisors to MOZAIC. It's just very bullish project and it's AI yield. So yeah, just crazy, just crazy peak. So it's quite interesting to see that from this list, a lot of these tokens, they're still at the very low market caps, despite, and some of them that they don't even have like crazy fully diluted valuation. So that means that if you would essentially be buying them currently, you won't be diluted by investors, by early investors when they would essentially get the unlocks. So very interesting place and very interesting peaks in terms of the things that are happening here. This is my analysis, my feedback, my overview about the whole thing. So I do think that we should see pump after this correction to 45, 46K. And after that, we would be looking to go down to 30, 35, and hopefully I will take some of the profits on my tokens. Or maybe I would just rebalance them in things that didn't grow much or something like that, because I do plan to hold most of my positions through these levels and just be injecting new capital into the market as the time goes. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments about the tokens. Like and subscribe if you like the content, and see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.